The Deep Six. 6 stories from your world in 30 minutes or less. Hosted by Patty Steele and Steve Cochran. The Deep Six is on.
Time again for the Deep Six. Boy, are we glad you're here, because it'd just be Patty and I talking to each other if we weren't. Not that that's not great.
I thought you were saying you were glad I was here.
I'm always glad you're here. I'm Steve Cochran in Chicago. Patty, introduce yourself.
I am Patty Steele, on the outskirts of New York City. That's where I work, so that's where I live.
Yes, and by outskirts, she means downtown in a fabulous pad.
The Deep Six. Story number 1.
All right, so we always start with entertainment, and there's a lot to talk about here, and we don't normally get into sports too deeply, but I think it's interesting that Michael Jordan is making a lot of news. They just had the NBA All-Star Weekend, and Michael Jordan has an ongoing feud with Charles Barkley. Now, I don't know how you feel about Charles Barkley, but I love Chuck.
Yeah, here's the thing. Charles Barkley, Michael Jordan, there are a handful of people who go beyond sports. Mm-hmm. They're interesting individuals, they're characters, and even if, like me, you're not like a mega sports fan, you still know who they are.
And Charles Barkley was at a Chicago Blackhawks playoff game a few years ago that I took my mom to. And my mom is a huge sports fan. So she was a bit starstruck, and I was taking a picture with Chuck, and I said, "Hey, you want to meet my mom?" And he goes, "Hey, mama, how about you and I get out of this game and go get some dinner?" So Charles Barkley hit on my mom.
I love it.
The reason I'm bringing up Michael Jordan is, aside from his feud with Charles, he and Charles Barkley were very close friends. And Charles, as a commentator for the NBA, said Michael's a bad owner. This is a few years ago now. He just questioned his ability to own and operate the Charlotte franchise.
Okay, so
Michael stopped talking to him after that.
Okay, so that's how it started. Okay.
Right. But that's not why we're here, Patty. We're here about love. And it turns out the love of Michael Jordan's life may be an actress model named Amy Hunter. And I got to tell you, I wasn't that familiar with her. Does the name ring a bell with you?
No, it doesn't. So it's not the love of his life is not his wife.
His current wife, I'm sure he loves her dearly, but he met her later in life. Amy Hunter is a woman that he was involved with prior to marrying his wife of many, many years, who he eventually divorced. Mm-hmm. And he wrote her a 20-page love letter that Amy Hunter, all these years later, be 35 years later or so, sold at auction recently for $25,000.
Wow. She's beautiful, by the way.
And who amongst us doesn't want an old love letter written to an old girlfriend brought out in the public light?
Oh, well, it depends on what you had to say. If you were incredibly poetic and loving, and you said nothing dirty, and you said nothing that would look bad to your current wife, then yes. Otherwise, no.
I just got to say, I'm shocked that Michael wrote 20 pages on anything.
Oh, really? Not a
big talker. No, not a big talker. And I've had conversations with him here and there. I'm a little hurt that he never wrote me a letter. But a 20-page love letter from Michael Jordan. This is all. I think we could put these items that we're doing here under an umbrella of celebrities are people too.
They are.
Michael may be worth $1 billion and the greatest basketball player of all time, but he's just another sappy dude in love at some point in his life. So, that's
maybe he wrote with really big letters, and that's why it was so many pages.
So I'll tell you one thing, though. None of us could say anything bad about Tom Hanks. See what I did there?
Oh, you are amazing.
Yeah. But turns out you have a Tom Hanks family story.
Well, here's the thing. Now stop and ask yourself, and I'm sure you have, wouldn't you just love to live in one of these Hollywood royalty families where you drive through town in your Lamborghini and everybody points and goes, "Oh my God, that's somebody out of Tom Hanks' family. Oh, look at, they're amazing." You feel a little jealous of people born into that because you think they have entree into the business. You think, well, they get great restaurant reservations. They get to fly all over the place. It looks like the perfect life.
It looks like a fun life.
Well, and truthfully, too, you look at Tom Hanks and he seems like just like the perfect guy. And Rita Wilson is absolutely adorable. Well, they have 2 sons, one of whom is an actor and doesn't ever speak ill of his father. And then they have a son named Chet, who is a bodybuilder / rapper.
Yeah, he went to Northwestern here in Chicago.
Yeah, he's a smart guy, has a YouTube channel. He went through a lot of drug issues, arrests and things like this, but he's kind of been redoing his life a little bit. And this week he started talking about what it's like to be born into that kind of family. He said, I'm really blessed. I got to travel the world, stay in nice hotels, fly in private planes. But he said, and there's always a big but, he said, fame is a double-edged sword. You've got to keep in mind it's the most powerful drug known to man. So it can also be the most destructive. It creates so much jealousy, a lot of envy, both within the family and without. And then he goes on, he doesn't point at his dad exactly, but he kind of brings up his dad saying, I really didn't have a strong male role model as I was growing up.
Wow.
When you think of Tom Hanks, you think, oh my God, he'd be like the perfect dad, perfect male role model. But apparently for Chet, that wasn't the case.
Well, the people for years and years have said of Tom Hanks, he's this generation's Jimmy Stewart.
Yeah.
And Jimmy Stewart was this gentle, a self-effacing guy who made all those great movies, and a terrific actor. But there's been a lot of stuff that's come out that Jimmy Stewart wasn't such a swell guy.
Really?
Screamer.
I don't want to hear it. La, 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 la. I can't hear this.
He was a screamer and a yeller on set, and he may have been tough to deal with. So again, this goes, celebrities are people too. And whatever problems Chet may have, there's two sides to every story. I still wouldn't mind if Tom Hanks adopted me. But
I do feel
they're still repairing the relationship is what it sounds like.
Yeah, it sounds like it. I do also feel like, I don't think you can be even remotely in the public eye, or maybe not even in the public eye. Somebody will find something about you that they can take badly. If you are at all demanding, and this is speaking to Jimmy Stewart, sorry. If you are at all of a perfectionist, or you're demanding in terms of the job that's getting done, there will be people who say, this guy was great to work with because he made me the best at what I do. Yep. And then you will find people who say, God, he was an asshole. I can't even believe I had to work with that. He was mean,
right.
Because they don't want to be necessarily made better. They want to be who they are. So, I take
and none of us get into show business as normal people.
No, right.
We all have our own things that brought us to this wacky way of life where you you look to an audience for approval.
Right. And then there's no escape.
Right. There is no escape. It's like a mob thing. Once you're in, you're in.
Right.
Well, and again, celebrities are people too. I've got another dad item here. How do you feel about Ben Stiller?
I love Ben Stiller. Oh,
yeah,
please don't say anything bad about him.
No, I think this is a good story, actually, because he's out promoting Severance, which I've not seen.
Do you know what it's about? Somebody who gets severance when they're fired?
No, I think I have this right. It's a bit of a sci-fi sort of thing. It's like you go to work and you're scanned, or somehow everything about your outside world is taken out of your brain. And then you work at work. You're only thinking about work. And when you leave, you get your brain back and you can go home and have your life.
That's what I'm seeing. They're describing it. They say this is a new series from Ben Stiller. Work-life balance takes on new meaning in this mysterious thriller. Ooh, I'm dialed in right now.
Yeah, and I'm like you. I love Ben Stiller. I think he's great.
Yeah.
We know that he has been separated from his wife. I think they put it back together. She's probably most famous for playing an unbelievable Marsha Brady in the Brady Bunch movies. Christine Taylor, I think is her name.
Yeah.
Right?
She's adorable. Yeah.
But Ben Stiller did an interview with Esquire just in the past few days. And he said, look, my daughter, Ella, she's 20 now, but she called me out. And he said, I made the same mistakes that my parents made that I promised myself I'd never make as a father. He said, I was trying to navigate my own desire to fulfill the hopes and dreams I had as an actor. And the fact of the matter is, what I've learned is your kids aren't keeping score in your career. He said, my kids don't care about that. They care about me being a dad, and I let her down. And whether she's right or I'm right doesn't matter. I let her down, and she believes I wasn't there for her. Now, they're fine now. But I love the fact that he's saying you don't get to do just what you want to do, because how selfish is being in show business, and make it all about you. Yeah. But sometimes you do have to do that to get to the top. It has to be all about you, and kids suffer. And, fortunately he's got a good relationship with his family and his kids, but I respect the fact that he's calling himself out on this.
Yeah, that he is. I mean, because a lot of people wouldn't do that. They wouldn't admit to their own personal failings, because it's so easy to look at yourself in this incredibly glittering world of success and say, what has she got to worry about? Or, I've done everything I've done, and she's had this great life. And instead he's realizing that, and I think, don't we all go through that with children? It doesn't matter whether you're famous or not. You have this thing where you realize, man, you got to answer. These are the only people that you
Yep.
really, really have to answer to,
Yeah.
in a way that is, because they're going to see through your selfishness, your narcissism, and everything else. And you're either going to take a deep look at yourself, which is what kids help you to do, or you're going to say, nah, not my problem. And then what have you done?
Yeah, well, that's that old, what were they called? Successories or something? Those were those wall hangings that were hot that were selling forever. And there's a picture of a little boy by a riverbank. And
Right.
it said at the end of your life, how much money you made, who you impressed, who you know, none of that matters. All that matters is you made a difference in the life of a child.
Right.
And
Right.
it might have been a little cliche in that format, but I believe that. I think that's the most important thing you could do, is be a great dad or a great mom.
Absolutely. Or a great friend. There
Mhm.
are many different ways to take care of and befriend children. And we certainly live in a world where there are so many of them that don't have that kind of sense of security from their home life. And
Right.
and if you can step up for a man, how great is
It's a big
that?
deal.
Yeah.
So celebrities are people too. Enough about people trying to do the right thing. Let's talk about people doing the wrong thing. And item number 2.
The Deep Six. Number 2.
I have a question for you. Now,
Right.
you got me onto Ozark. I resisted this forever. And I said, look, it's so grim. Everything I hear about it is disturbing. I love Jason Bateman.
I love
Um,
Jason Bateman, which is the only reason I started watching it
Right.
in
And
the first place, because he's just, I think, and he's so perfect in the
oh,
role in Ozark.
fantastic. He's
Oh,
fantastic. And there's a ton of breakout stars in this thing. But in the midst of watching
Julia
Ozark,
Garner from Inventing Anna.
oh yeah. She's tell you what, breakout star in a big way, because that woman has
Huge.
she's. I don't want to ruin it for you, but she will just capture you if you watch Ozark, if you haven't, because
Yeah.
she's the type of person where you go, boy, I don't want to be caught in a broken elevator with her, but man, I'd like to meet her. She's interesting.
She's
Um,
fascinating. I first ran into her even before I saw Ozark. The New York Times, I mean, she was, I don't know, she may be 22 at the time, did this enormous, like 2-page article on her and how she was a really, truly up and coming major star. And that's what got me interested in Ozark. And boy, she's really incredible.
So you may be saying, why, other than thanking me, Steve, would you bring up Ozark? That's probably what
Yes,
you're thinking.
exactly. What's the deal here, buddy?
I think I'm learning about killing people, because a lot of people die in Ozark. And
Oh God, on a regular moment by moment basis.
yeah, if there's a new scene coming up, somebody's probably dead. And it's done in a way where I remember, as The Sopranos went on, the brilliance of The Sopranos was drama would build. If there's a soundtrack that works in one of these shows, the music builds to a certain tension level, and sometimes there's a payoff, sometimes there's not, which sets up the next one to make it even more tense.
Right.
And Ozark does that as well. But there's so much murder in Ozark, I couldn't help but thinking, who would I like to kill? And all of us in life.
I already have a list. Are you kidding?
Yeah, and I want you to send that to me.
No, truthfully, I don't. I got to make that statement.
Patty's murder list is just imaginary. It doesn't exist.
Right. It's just in my head.
But at some point you go in life, you get mad enough at somebody where it's a completely human thought to go, oh, I'd like to kill. You don't, because that's
Usually.
wrong.
Well,
But
is it? Is it really?
well, again, maybe it depends on the person.
Situation.
But here on the Deep Six, just as a way of helping you, just pause for a second and just think to yourself. You don't have to tell us. Who would you like to kill right now? We'll give you a second. All right. And now try to get that out
That
of
was
your
not
head.
long enough. I got so many people.
So thank you for taking me from an Ozark resistor to an Ozark acceptor. I highly recommend it. We have streamed, my wife and I consumed it completely, have streamed it through the first half of the final season. And we don't know what's going to happen next, but that's a really well done,
isn't it? It's an amazing.
Yeah, it's not going to take you forever. It's a 4-season series.
And we talked about this earlier on another podcast about You. It's the same kind of a thing. It's all about why people murder, and sort of fascinatingly on both of them, but on You, it's really interesting because you have one person who murders in a very methodical, very well thought out way. Like he doesn't really want to murder people, but he understands that sometimes it's really necessary.
Right.
And he tries to find a way not to have that happen, but if he has to, he gets it done. He makes sure it's in a place where no one is going to see anything. He makes sure to clean up and dispose of what's left and moves on. Whereas another person on the show is all about the emotion of killing because, oh my God, I'm really mad at this person. Bam, over the head.
Right.
And it's kind of an interesting thing. And while I admire the well thought out, methodical killer, I think if I'm a killer, I'm probably going to be more that, oh my God, I can't believe you did that. And they're done.
In case you're wondering, this is why Patty's in New York and I'm in Chicago. It's for my own safety.
Yeah.
So
you
if I had
there
to
and
say
tell
to
people, you tell people not to murder anybody, and I go, yeah, go for it.
If I had to say to you, you only get to pick one, Ozark or You, and those characters you were just describing, which one would you choose? Which one did you enjoy? Sounds like a funny word for this, but which one was more entertaining to you?
I'm going to kill you for asking me that.
All right, let's move on then.
The Deep Six.
Let's go to the science item. This time it's item number 3. What do you have for me?
I have Elon Musk and Mars. Now, he's been talking about since 2002. He's been saying that he wants to help make humankind a multi-planetary species. He wants to start with Mars, and he wants to send people up there. I don't know. You call these guys like explorers, pioneers, colonists. What do you call them?
Nuts. Nuts. I just go nuts.
Well, it is a 40 million mile trip. Now, if it's me, I'm thinking once I land, I want to sit down to a great steak dinner, right? I think that would be like, oh God, I've been on this thing for 40 million miles. I probably had to sleep for a lot of it, like put into this like state of whatever. And I get there and here's what I find out. Elon Musk wants to make life self-sustaining on Mars, and he wants to do it through solar powered hydroponic farms and, I shudder, vegan diets.
Okay, look, there's a number of problems here. Elon Musk may be the smartest guy in the world, but he has clearly not thought this out. Because if you're going to populate Mars, you're going to need more than vegans. You just are. You just
he wants to bring animals, but they just won't be. They're just not on the dinner table.
But if you're going to bring animals, bring the scientists seem to agree that cow farting is doing a lot of damage to our ozone layer.
Right.
Why don't we move the cows to Mars? Let them fart up a storm the entire day. They could just gas it up big time. It seems like there's a solution to this where we could still have that steak dinner you talked about.
Thank you. I think there is. He says that eventually, as we expand onto the surface of Mars and then become interstellar, he doesn't want to just be interplanetary. He wants to be interstellar. Then maybe that's when the steak arrives. He says, yeah, we'll bring animals. I love this statement. He says, we'll bring animals and creatures of the earth there, sort of like a futuristic Noah's Ark, but we'll bring more than 2 because it's a little weird if there's only 2. That's what he said.
Well, he's not wrong. I mean, that is a big hole.
Do we bring 3 and set up a fight between?
Yeah, there's a bit of a hole in Noah's whole story there. The 2x2 thing and how they all get along in one boat.
Right.
But no, I'm like you. I love Elon Musk, but no, if we're going to Mars, it can't be just vegan. That's it.
No,
I'm drawing the line.
No. I need a hot dog. I need to be able to have some fried chicken.
Yeah, right. You got to live a little, even if it's on Mars. All right, let me ask you a science question. I got a science question for you. The Earth center, the center core of the planet you and I live on, the Earth. What do you think it's made of?
Marshmallows.
It is not marshmallows.
I think it's made of molten something or other, something that's fiery and awful.
Everybody thought that. Everybody thought it was either liquid or possibly even solid. Much like a Super Ball. You remember Super Balls that would bounce really high? Yeah.
Right. Or a Tootsie Roll.
Turns out it's neither. And it's also not my guess, which was rich, creamy nougat. It's not that either.
Yeah, that's why I was thinking of Tootsie Pops. You know how you have the hard surface
Right.
on the and then that Tootsie in the inside? Ooh.
Of course, you'd need Gene Simmons if you said, how many licks of the earth will it take till you get to the center of the earth?
Right.
So here's the deal. It turns out scientists have determined the center of the earth is something called a superionic state made up of hydrogen, oxygen, and carbon, unlike any solid or liquid form, and it's completely abnormal. Isn't that fascinating?
What does it feel like if I were to grab, like squish it? Does it squish?
See, that's the part I don't know. I was hoping that you just go, no, let's move on.
Oh, cool. Okay, let's. Yeah, I want to know if
Steve's out of scientific information here.
Right. Is it hot and squishy, or is it cold and squishy, or is it gassy?
I'm going to put my best people on that and get back to you with those notes.
I would hope so.
The Deep Six, number 4.
If you think about people from Switzerland, they're very neutral. They're very, let's take care of each other kind of a thing. So apparently in Zurich, they have built a brand new jail there. They don't like to put people in jail there, but they do occasionally.
It's funny you say that. I mean, and I'm not kidding when I say this. It's hard for me to imagine Swiss inmates. It just seems they're such a pleasant people. It's hard for me to imagine they had to go to jail.
Maybe they were rude or something, and that's why they go to jail. So, but here's the funny part of it. They built this jail, but they're a little worried that it won't be a pleasant place for the prisoners. They need to have some people try it out. So they put out word and they asked people if they wanted to volunteer to spend several days. They called it sort of an open house, but it's an open house that you'd be locked into. So you're in jail for a few days and you're going to do this test run to make sure that the prisoners will enjoy it when they get there. They had 832 applications in the first couple of days that they put this out.
And these are people that would be literally living in cells.
Yes, they would be put in the cell and testing out probably all the wonderful, I don't know, maybe they have TVs, maybe they have gyms, maybe they have yoga classes like they do for, the stars that go to prison. I don't know.
So I think I'm right about this. Isn't Switzerland one of those places where the survey year after year always says it's one of the happiest places on earth?
Yes.
And everybody's contented there. Why would you want to leave all that chocolate and happiness
and cheese?
And cheese. Why would you want to leave that all out there?
Well, I'll give you the end of the story. It turns out that for those of them who take part, you will be on a reality TV show.
No.
So that's part of it.
The Swiss fan. I wonder what the Kardashian family of the Swiss is. There's got to be one.
So you're in there to test the pretrial detention, the jail services, and what happens once you are fully committed to the jail. So,
okay. All right. Well, now we know. It's all about being famous even there.
The Deep Six, number 5.
It's no secret if you listen to the Deep Six with any regularity, we love dogs.
Oh my God, we're dog fanatics. I've got dogs actually looking through the door at me right now.
They want to break into your studio to give you an opportunity to play ball with them and take them outside.
Right, and leave footprints over everything because they're always outside in the mud.
So here's the deal. There's a scientific study going on. I think the wording for this is interesting, but what are they trying to figure out here? You explain it to me.
It's called the Dog Aging Project, and they say 32,000 dogs have already signed up. Now, I don't know if the dogs signed up or if somebody who...
What do you think the dog's doing during the day when you're working? They're on the internet signing up for studies.
Signing up for a dog aging. Hey, I want to live longer. How do I do this?
Right.
So it's this nationwide research effort. They're looking to extend the lives of dogs. They say the primary goal of our project is to understand why it is dogs vary so much in how they age and how long they live. And that's according to Daniel Promislow. Interesting name.
Yeah, because you can have a golden might only live 8, 9, 10 years, right?
Well,
you could have another dog that could be 14 or 15.
I have golden doodles, and they generally 13, maybe 14 years.
Right.
Then on the other end of the scale, you could have a Saint Bernard, and you're lucky if you get 5, 6, 7 years out of them.
See, I thought golden doodles was a snack food. You're telling me that's a dog.
They are kind of a snack for me. I adore them. Anyway, these guys are trying to talk 100,000 dogs into signing up for this project. And some obviously would like to extend their lifespans. Others go, They don't really care. They just want a treat.
Yeah, I wonder if the dogs look at him and go, well, I don't know. Can we play ball? If we can play ball, I'll go. Sure, absolutely.
I want them to live longer. I don't like losing my dogs after.
No, it's a family member. It's brutal. It's brutal.
Oh, it's really, I lost this golden doodle a couple of years ago, and she loved to swim, and she would go outside and jump in the pool, and she would literally swim laps all by herself. And this one day she was out there, my husband was out there doing just some gardening or whatever, and he looked at her and saw she was in the deep end. She was starting to struggle, and she swam to the side to like a little swim platform, and she collapsed, and that was it. I came out and she was gone. And my daughter came out. Now, you know, Katie is this tough, strong, she's great,
Sure.
but she's no nonsense. She came out and she went, call the police. And I went, I don't know what
There's
the
been a
police are
hit.
gonna. This is a wet, dead puppy, and we love her very much. You know, our 14 years of joy with her, but I don't think the police are going to come over. So we picked her up and carried her to the car and drove her to the vet, and they reassured us that she was not coming back. But yeah, it is an incredibly painful experience, not just for us, but for the other dogs in the family too.
Yeah. Yeah. Cause then they're trying to figure out where's my buddy.
Yeah, right. They get very, very depressed. It
Yeah.
changed my one dog's personality completely. And she's still wonderful. And there's another puppy in the house, and she loves her, but she's not the same dog she was before. Not that kind of goofy, now she's just more serious.
Well, lock the liquor cabinet, if you know what I'm saying.
Yes, exactly.
So, all right. I want to tell you one more animal
I have
story.
one trying to break in the door right now.
Oh, is that right? For those of you listening, Patty literally went to the door to let one of her favorite people that's covered with fur in. And she's going to now give, oh, yeah, she's bringing, hello, buddy.
Here you
Hi.
go.
Oh, hello.
She's
And
licking
she's
my
getting-
mouth. I don't like that.
Yes. So that's what you get when you love dogs, that kind of
Yes, yes.
affection, unconditional love.
What do you get
Right.
when you love bears?
Well, here's the thing. You know the story of Hank the Tank, but I don't know that the public knows this. And
I know.
I often root for animals to win.
Yes, always.
Because honestly, and I've told my 6-year-old Abigail this, said when we're outside, if, a bug jumps on your arm or something, you get a little freaked out by it.
You
Said,
don't have to
gotta
kill them.
remember, we're in their house.
Yeah.
This is where
Yes.
they live.
Yeah.
So we have to be respectful of the fact that we're in their house. So Hank the Tank, look, he may be a criminal on a rampage, or he may just be, a bear that's had enough. So let's go to Lake Tahoe.
A bear
There-
that's had enough.
Yeah, for months now, the 500 pounds, it's not a small bear.
No.
500-pound black bear has been roaming the streets in the Tahoe Keys area of South Lake Tahoe. Now, I don't know Tahoe Keys. I don't know Tahoe, but it's a moneyed area. There's
Yes,
some folks
it's
with money.
beautiful, but it's very natural, and there's something wrong with you if you don't understand that there are animals around you.
Right. And in the span of 7 months, Hank the Tank is alleged to have caused, and I say alleged because Hank needs an attorney. Hank is alleged to have caused extensive damage at 33 different homes and forcefully entered at least 28. Now,
Oh, he's a criminal.
he's a criminal on a rampage, but maybe he's just a bear who's had enough. Hank is responsible, allegedly, for 2 more break-ins over the weekend. A Facebook post says he broke through a small window. He's a 500-pound bear. You're never going to
Hey.
stick my client with this.
Does he steal stuff, or does he eat people?
He goes inside. He hasn't eaten anyone yet, but give him an opportunity. He'll trash the place because he's looking for food and looking for
Sure, of
things.
course. Well,
I'm
I
not
trash
saying
the
he-
place when I'm hungry.
I'm not saying he hasn't maybe lifted an iPhone on occasion. I don't know. Anything's possible.
Or eating it.
But he's believed to have broken down the front door on Saturday to enter another home. They don't know that it was definitely Hank yet, but they have a reason for suspicion. The
Mhm.
worst part about this story for me is they don't know how to fix this without taking Hank out. Hank's on a
Well, they
hit
want to
list.
kill him. I saw that.
Yeah.
What the heck?
Yeah. So wouldn't you, every show I've seen, and, if you can't believe TV, what can you believe? They shoot him with a nice big tranquilizer dart.
Right. And then take him to a farm somewhere in the middle of nowhere.
Right. And release him into the wild, or take him into a room of people that we want to be eaten by bears and leave him there.
Right. Man, I got a lot of places.
But they say the dangerous thing about Hank is he has lost his innate fear of people and is
Right.
associating people with access to food. So I get it. It's probably scary if you live there, but maybe cook up an extra steak. We were talking about that. You're not going to take
Right.
it to Mars with you anyway.
Yep.
Hank
Or
comes over.
unless he's a vegan. I don't know.
Boy, that'd be a weird bear. Hank comes over, toss him a steak or, whatever bears enjoy.
It's interesting, the idea of losing your fear of humans. I'd like to lose my fear of humans, but I haven't. But we have like raccoons around here. And like I'll go outside and they'll be, knocking over my garbage can, or they're trying to get into my garden. And you know me, I love to garden and I have vegetables, and they go after that. And I have done everything from bark at them, like I'm a ferocious dog, to whatever. And they look at me like, what do you want? Like, leave me alone. I'm trying to have a meal here. They don't have any fear of human beings.
Yeah.
It's weird. It is weird. It's a little spooky because everybody tells you, oh, don't worry about it. They're more afraid of you than you are of them. Not true anymore.
Have you seen the advice? I love to see these things pop up on the internet where they go, advice if you ever have a bear encounter. Well, that's most of us. But when you see a bear, you're supposed to get big and make a lot of noise. Really?
Yeah, I don't think. Yeah, that seems like a challenge almost to me.
Yeah, because the idea that I could turn around and run and the bear wouldn't catch me, that's not happening either.
No.
The idea that I could go Anchorman zoo fight and punch the bear in the nose, like they did in the movie. I don't know what I'd do other than die.
Yeah,
I'm just saying I'm rooting for Hank. At least give Hank a new home where he can live out the rest of his life safely, and he doesn't have to continue this life of crime that he's in.
No, I know. I mean, good Lord. I wonder where his parents are.
Well, you got to wonder what kind of upbringing he had.
Exactly.
The Deep Six, number 6.
Let's go to item number 6 and a delightful story about a celebrity we both love.
Bill Murray.
Yeah.
He's such an unusual individual. I don't know, maybe
job. I know Bill a little bit. He's a whack job.
He is a whack job. A little over a month ago, he showed up in Washington Square Park here in New York with this like world-class cellist who he is great friends with, a violinist and a keyboard player. And they began to put on a show of beautiful music. And Bill began to sing, I Feel Pretty from West Side Story. I feel pretty.
Sure.
Oh, so and he did a
As
beautiful
one
job.
does.
Right. And then he did Ain't Necessarily So from Porgy and Bess and a bunch of other things until the police arrived and said, okay, you don't have a permit to do this, even if you are Bill Murray. And he said, okay. And they packed up and they left.
How'd you like to be an NYPD beat walker, a guy just out doing his job?
And you got to go up against Bill
Murray. You got to
Murray.
go up to Bill Murray and say you can't sing and give people joy. That can't be a fun day.
Right. And he can remind them that, I sang this very same show with these same people in the middle of Athens in a 2,000-year-old theater. And because actually I'm thinking, and I'm probably right, that the reason he did it is because he did that. He was in Athens and then he took that show on the road and performed in a bunch of places. It's like classical music that he happens to love, although his voice is awful, because I can tell you that. And they did a movie called New Worlds, Cradle of Civilization. Don't know why that is the name.
Is it a documentary or something?
It's kind of a documentary, and it's been in theaters. It was in theaters for the month of February, pretty much. And I'm imagining now is going to make the transition to some streaming service because it's kind of interesting. I don't know if I'd get tired of it after a while because I don't know that I want to hear him sing I Feel Pretty for very long.
It's interesting, right? Because there's a reason people spend money on these projects. And is Bill Murray's association with it bringing out a bigger message on something? Or was it just done as a goof that turned into something?
Well, apparently they were doing some of this because he's very good friends with this cellist and the violinist. They're married, 2 people married. And apparently he was doing it. And then this guy who's a filmmaker somehow saw them or whatever and just went, wow, this is kind of interesting. We could take them on tour. And that's just what they did. And he filmed it. So that's
Bill is also famous for interrupting weddings, for photo bombing people.
Yes.
And all I can tell you, unlike Hank the Tank, if Bill Murray pops into your picture, He won't eat you or harm you in any way.
He probably won't even rob you.
So,
The interesting thing about that is, he's Bill Murray. So he can kind of do what he wants, but the downside, as Tom Hanks' son Chet said, is that you are constantly watched. There's a lot of downside to never having any kind of a private life. And so he has done an interesting thing by this kind of stuff and by the wedding appearances. He just uses this thing that has come over him, this fame and this, wow, that's Bill Murray. And he just is having fun with it and liking to make people either laugh or go, wow. I think he is using it in a very interesting way. He's not trying to hide.
Well, but you make a really interesting point, because maybe, and I've never discussed this with him, but maybe that's how he gets over those public moments, right? Because everybody sees Bill Murray and the first thing they think is, oh, he's going to make us laugh.
Right.
So maybe he does some shtick and he can get out of otherwise awkward situations.
Yeah. And that's just like, he knows what they want. So he says, what the hell, I'll give it to him.
Man, if Hank the Tank had a sense of humor.
Right.
So you could tell
doing selfies with the bear.
Well, I hope you've learned something today on the Deep Six. We taught you that celebrities are people too. We told you if you feel like you want to kill somebody, it's just a thought. Don't follow through with it. Everybody
Did we say
them.
that? I thought I said go ahead.
You did, but I was trying to keep you out of prison.
Okay.
And speaking of prison, we also told you there's a jail in Switzerland where you could help test the jail. And Elon Musk wants to make Mars vegan, which to me is a horrible real estate development idea. Those are all good stories, but that's why we hope you like the Deep Six, right?
We surely do. And we thank you for sticking through. If you have. If you haven't, then you don't get any thank you.
Right. Yeah, you can take it.
Because you're gone.
See you next time on the Deep Six.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening. The Deep Six. Subscribe, rate, follow, or review at pattysteele.com or cochranshow.com.